All right, so now we're going to look at what is probably a more common way of attacking in Khan, cane fighting, which are the prime, these big kind of primed blows or blows done with a flourish, as some of the manuals say, which I think is just a lovely term. I just love the idea of flourishing and you're fighting. All right, so this is, as I said, more typical. This is the method you see in Labouchet. You see it in most cane systems from the period. They have some variant of these big kind of primed blows to deliver damage. And a big part of that is when, particularly the earlier cane masters were thinking about how the weapon is meant to work and how they're meant to fight with it. They thought of it as more like a sword, where, they expect that when they hit someone, that person is going to be debilitated. Whereas, some later authors start to think of the stick more as like, a really, really long punch where it's going to do damage, it's going to hurt, but, it's going to take multiple blows and, sustained effort to actually stop a dedicated attack. I find these work quite nicely in concert. I actually quite like using the two together. So doing a quick chop, or quick tip slash to open my opponent up, especially to the hand, get them distracted, and then use that to deliver a bigger blow that's going to then drop them. Not that I actually go out and get in fights with sticks, but when I spar with this, that's kind of how it rolls. I quite like these because they are compatible with Sabre. You can do most of these techniques with Sabre, and you do see these sorts of techniques in some continental Sabre systems. So the Italian Sabre, they love these big kind of primed blows, which I've been told is actually a reaction to having pipe back blades, which don't cut near as well because they have this big kind of, pipe at the back of their blade. So the Italians needed to swing a lot harder to cut, so they started using these same techniques. All right. So we're going to have a look at these. The other cool thing about these attacks is they work at a longer range. So one of the things that I don't like about the earlier cane systems is you need to have a long lunge because if you pull your hand back like that, you are at risk of being counter hit. But the easiest way to counter that is just to be out of, be far enough away that your opponent attacking you because you've primed your blow just leaves them vulnerable to you. So, coming on guard. The way I like to think of these is that I'm moving through a parry position. So for the first one, we're going to do cut number one, moving through the parry position of St. George, or the head guard in British Sabre. So all I do is I fold my cane up, so it's sitting above my head. I bring it back around behind my head. This is something they very explicitly describe. I'm also going to pull my shoulder back so my chest is straight on, and then I attack by winding around and delivering an attack from sword side to non-sword side. So in my case, right to left. So again, lift up to this St. George or head guard position. I'm also using this time to rotate my body straight on, bring my cane behind my head, and swing through. You can, hopefully you can hear the whoosh because it is quite impressive. So, cane up, behind the head, swing through. All right. So I'll get you all to follow along, just for a few of them. So, and retract, cut. 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 All right. So that's cut one, moving through sort of the head guard position. And one of the reasons why these positions mimic parries, or like the case of Labouchet, he doesn't actually teach you how to attack. He just has a series of exercises where you do a parry and then riposte from it. And the idea is that if you're launching your initial attack, you just do the parry, you just do whatever parry you want and then launch from there as a way of powering up. The reason you do a parry is it covers you against what you think might be the most likely attack your opponent's going to throw before throwing your own blow. So you're actually covered, you're covered, at least in some small way. You're forcing your opponent to react a little before you attack. So next one I'm going to look at is I go to the position of prime, and then I throw cut number 2. So prime, I'm covering myself on, covering my body on this side, and then straight down. So prime, cut, prime, cut, prime, cut, prime, cut, prime, cut, prime, cut, and prime, cut. All right, so let's look at kind of another position, which is high octave. So I come up to here, and then all I'm going to do is throw a rising cut, cut number 4. So come up, high octave, that's this point forward. I might just show you that from the side on. So my arm is up at sort of 90 degrees like this. My tip is well forward, but I'm still looking at my opponent underneath it. And then I bring my hand all the way around and cut to the arm. So octave, cut, octave, cut. Be careful with your ceiling. Octave, cut, octave, cut, octave, cut, octave, cut. All right. So those are sort of the 3 kind of main priming positions. Sort of head guard, high prime, and octave. But you can use each of these to launch multiple cuts. And I find it's quite a good tactic when you're bouting with this. Is you might start by throwing a cut from the same position, and then you might be like, ha-ha, and use the same kind of priming motion to throw a different cut as a way of unsettling your opponent or like catching them off guard. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to octave, and I'm going to throw cut 7. And do be careful of your when you do that. So do is I come up to here, and I'm going to throw straight down. So octave 7, octave 7, octave 7, octave 7. Again, being kind of careful of your. This is quite a good sort of head cut. And one thing is you'll say if you really want to debilitate your opponent, but that can actually be used as a blow to the hand. So when I'm throwing that octave, I don't have to go straight to the head. I might come all the way up here, and then come straight down on my opponent's hand. This is actually shown as a defense against an opponent with a knife. Someone pulls a knife on you, you just smash down straight in the hand. So let's try that again. We're going to go octave and 7, but instead of aiming forward at head height, I want you to aim low at hand height. So octave, cut the hand. 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 And octave, cut the hand. And something you'll notice when I do that, I might come a bit close to the camera so you can see, is that I'm letting go of my stick. So I go from here, from my light grip, I just let it drop in my hand so that I can then flick it and really, really accelerate and get the most out of, the most sort of, speed and power out of my stick. All right. So let's look at another kind of cool way to cut to the hand, the differential target, and that's coming to low prime. So this low position here, I'm just whipping over. And this is, of these primed cuts, this is probably one of the quickest. So what I do is I flick my hand over, so it's in this position. I'll show you that from the side. So my hand is in line with the outside of my body. My forearm is a bit below horizontal. Then all I do is whip, and when I attack, I'm moving my hand so it's in line with the other side of my body. Come straight down, and I can even come down at an angle if I need to. So, lead prime, cut. 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 And I know I moved backwards a few times then, which is a bit instinctive. When I do these kinds of cuts, especially touch the hand, they're designed as counter cuts. So my opponent is either extending their hand out where I can hit it, or throwing, for whatever reason, or even just threatening me, just kind of, throwing an attack that's going to fall short. And what I'll do is I'll move back and then deliver a really, really hard cut to the weapon hand as a way of debilitating them. All right. So now we're going to look at doing that with footwork, because it's very, you do these standing as, parry, riposte. So we'll talk a bit more about that when I talk about parries. But primarily you're going to be doing them on the lunge. And whereas for the previous tip slashes, we had a very short lunge because they're a very short, quick movement. Because these are bigger movements, they're better done on a longer lunge. These are long-range attacks. So we're going to start by just going to St. George and then throwing cut number 1 on a lunge. So let's begin with St. George. Begin your cut, kick your foot out to start the lunge, then drive with your back foot rolling onto your front toes. And the idea is the point where your toes hit the ground is the point where your tip will hit your opponent. And then you retract by basically just pulling with your back leg. You bend your back leg to pull you back. You can also push with your front leg, although I find, which gives you extra speed, but it gives you a smoother, or it gives you a jerkier, less smooth retraction, which can make acting whilst you're coming backwards a bit harder. So, from here, all the way up to St. George. Begin your cut, kick your foot out, extend and lunge, and come back. So St. George, kick, extend and lunge, and back. So prime, kick, extend and lunge, and come back. All right, so let's try that a little bit smoother, so all in one go. So I'm just going to call lunge. And remember, prime, do not start your lunge until you've started your hand moving. The same way with pretty much all attacks in fencing from this period, you want to get your hand out there first so that it's going to land first. So, lunge, 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 and lunge. All right, so let's try that on the other side, and I'll break it down again just in case you got a bit like you didn't have quite enough practice with your lunges. Just it's always good to go back to basics. I've been doing this for years, not cane specifically, but fencing for years, and I still go back to basics semi-frequently. So we're going to go prime, kick our foot out, and extend and hit, and back to guard. So prime, kick our foot out, extend and hit, and back to guard. Prime, extend our foot out, hit lunge, and back to guard. Prime, kick our foot out, extend and lunge, and back to guard. All right, so let's try that a little quicker. So I'm just going to call lunge, and I want you to do it as one smooth fluid motion. So lunge, 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 and lunge. Back to guard. All right. So I actually should have given you some more footwork options, or certainly giving you more attack options. And one thing that we do when I'm teaching Kane as a curriculum. We sort of look at each aspect of what I'm teaching tonight in a lot more detail, is you look at priming and then going to a different attack from that position, just as a way of sort of learning some variability in your play. All right, so just start to check. Are there any questions? Give us a chat message. All right. Cool. So, yep, so it looks like no other questions. I might just stop recording for now.